Shahram Akbarzadeh is the Director of Middle East Studies Forum at Deakin University. He joins us live from Melbourne, Australia. So, Shahram, I just want to firstly ask you, we're just speaking with our Middle East correspondent about the objective here of the US and Israel, which they have, all the signs are there that regime change is what they're after. If that indeed is the case, how do you see that playing out?
Thanks for having me. I think the Israeli agenda is regime change or significantly weakened and contained Iran. That would be the Israeli agenda. The American agenda seems to change from one day to the next, but for the time being, is regime change. But yesterday, it was about the nuclear issue and containing Iran's nuclear ambitions and not making a nuclear bomb. So regime change is now on the table, which is an existential threat to the authorities in Iran. That is why we see Iran respond to the American and the Israeli attack so forcefully, unlike what happened in June last year. June last year, Iran basically signaled Americans that they were going to hit the US base in Qatar, allowing the authorities at the US base to evacuate and take precautions to minimize damage. This time around, Iran sees an existential threat and is not holding back. It's hitting a number of locations in its neighborhood, and this is really expanding and endangering the whole region.
Do you expect that Iran's proxies, the Houthis, for example, may choose to get involved?
I think every indication suggests that the Houthis, the Shia militia in Iraq, even Hezbollah, that is significantly weakened, would interpret this round of conflict and firing of missiles as a signal for them to take part and target U.S. assets.
There's been a call by Donald Trump for the Iran Revolutionary Guard to lay down arms and saying that they would receive complete immunity. How do you think that would be seen and received by members of the Guard in Iran?
I mean, this just tells me that President Trump has no grasp of how things work in Iran and no grasp of how the regime operates and its various institutions. I don't expect anyone in the Revolutionary Guards and IRGC to heed the call from President Trump. I don't expect them to lay down their arms. The Revolutionary Guards in Iran has an ideological commitment to the regime and also vested interest in maintaining the regime. That is why the regime has survived so far in the face of overwhelming popular discontent. The regime in Iran is not popular. The population in Iran does not want to see the regime in power, but the regime has stayed in power because it has not shied away from using brute force, as we saw in January this year.
What about that call from Trump on Iranian people? He asked them to stay in shelter, not to leave their homes, but he said, quote, "when we're finished, to take over your government." What do you make of that line? And I mean, what kind of path is there really for any sort of takeover of the Iranian government?
I think that's an extremely irresponsible thing to say to the Iranian population who've already just trying to recover from the brutal suppression last month. Any attempt, the regime has demonstrated, as I mentioned before, the regime has demonstrated that it does not shy away from using brute force. It uses live ammunition against unarmed civilians. So any attempt by the population to rally in the streets, capture government agencies, capture, media agencies, none of that is going to be tolerated by the authorities. IRGC will use brute force and massacre, as it has done, massacre the population. So I think that's a very irresponsible thing for President Trump to say, and he's basically using Iranian civilians and population as fodder to promote his own agenda.
Shahram Akbarzadeh, he is a Director of Middle East Studies Forum at Deakin University. We really appreciate your time and analysis with us. Thank you.